class, Mrs. Gilling here, going over your Unit 4 video assignment, all about contract law. But before we do, let's go into our joke of the unit. You ready for this? Okay, so if you ever watch Law & Order, any of those kind of shows, you've probably heard a lawyer say something like, I'd like to make a motion. So here's a cartoon that exemplifies that. You ready? Here's the lawyer. I'd like to make this motion, Your Honor, doing a dance. And the judge goes, motion denied. That's what most people say about my dancing skills. They totally deny it, but it's okay. I'm a better teacher than I am dancer. It's all good. So let's move into your unit number 4, the things that you're going to be learning about contract law. I like this unit because it gives you some practical things that you can use in your life to make sure you're a good consumer, that you're a smart consumer, and that you make good choices when you buy products, especially big products. So first of all, what is a contract? A contract is an agreement between 2 or more persons to exchange something of value. To be legally binding, contracts must have an offer by one party and an acceptance by another. So an example of this is you go to a store, you find a shirt that you like, you offer to buy that shirt for $5, and the store manager accepts that you've made a contract for that shirt. A person entering into contract must be legally competent to do so. They have to be able to make the decision to enter into a contract. So a 5-year-old, for instance, can't really make a contract. They don't let 5-year-olds just go into a car dealership and buy cars because they're not competent enough to do so. There's also a lot of laws regarding minors, people under 18. You can go into a store and buy a shirt, for instance, but if you want to go try to buy a car or something like that, you'll have to go in with a parent because they want to make sure that you fully understand what you're doing to do that and have a co-signer there. And contracts can be written or oral, but most must be in writing to be enforced. It's really hard to go to court and say, hey, I had a contract with this person, they breached that contract, if there's nothing in writing, because the judge is going to say, well, they don't say that they had something, and you say that you do, so which is it? But if you have it in writing, it's a lot easier to enforce. Now, you've probably heard of something called warranties. If you're aware of car dealerships, things like that, they'll say, hey, this car has a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. A warranty is a promise or guarantee made by a seller that goods offered for sale are not defective and will perform properly. There's a couple different kinds of warranties. An express warranty is a statement, written or oral, or by demonstration concerning the quality or performance of goods offered for sale that becomes a part of the bargain between 2 parties. So, for instance, if you have a vacuum cleaner that you're trying to sell and you put a bunch of dirt on the ground and you demonstrate that vacuum cleaner sucks all that dirt up, then you're doing express warranty that if someone buys that vacuum, that it's going to suck dirt up. So if you get back to your house and you try and clean your carpet and nothing's coming up, you can return that vacuum because obviously that's not working, even though that they said that it did, because you have that express warranty. There's also an implied warranty, an unwritten promise created by law that a product will do what it is supposed to do, even if no express promise is made. So let's say that just one more thing before we go into that. That only applies to products sold by dealers of that product. So let's say you want to go buy a car, and you go to that car dealership. It's a brand new car. Just by the fact that you're at a car dealership, a place that's selling brand new cars right off the lot, that has an implied warranty. Even if they didn't say that there's a warranty there because they're dealers selling a brand new product. You should know that it's going to work at least for a certain amount of time. Now, let's say, though, that you go just to your neighbor's house and they're selling a 1997 Ford Taurus and you're going to buy that. They don't have that same implied warranty. They're not a dealer. It's a used car. It's something that's got lots of problems with it. There's no guarantee that that's going to work. They don't have to have the same kind of warranty. Now, when you start to buy things, especially big things like homes or cars, or even when you're trying to pay for college, you're going to run into credit and other financial services. I'm not going to go too much into detail here because your section covers this in depth. Your textbook reading has a lot of pages about this. But here's just a little bit for you. There's 3 main sources from which to pay for goods and services in the marketplace. The first is cash. I'm sure you've all paid for something with cash. That's just when, you walk into the store, you've got money, you got a $5 bill, you want to buy something for $5, you give that to them. There's also bank accounts. This is a very popular thing. Hopefully all of you have one. But that's where you store your money when you receive it with a bank. You earn interest, and you use a debit card or you write a check to pull that money out to pay for something. There's also credit. Now, credit's the credit card that you hear of where you don't have that money necessarily backed in an account, but your financial institution agrees to lend you that certain amount of money to cover your expenses until you can pay them back. You're generally expected to pay them back on a monthly basis. And as you're paying them back, you usually have to pay interest on top of that. And like I said, you're going to learn a lot more about credit and financial services in this chapter. One thing you need to be aware of when you're making purchases is deceptive sale practices. And I'm going to list a few of those for you. So, one thing is telemarketing sales. Now, telemarketing is legal, but there's laws that they have to follow. And if those telemarketers aren't following those laws, then they can get in big trouble. And if you're familiar with things going on today with phones, there's a lot of robocalls that come out where people are like, oh, you really need to buy this product. And they really try to trick you into things. So it's smart to learn about this stuff. I really encourage you to pay attention in this unit as you study this chapter about the laws regarding telemarketing sales. One law that they have is if you ask them to stop calling, they have to stop calling. If they do keep calling you, then you can report them and they can get in trouble for that. There's also door-to-door sales. You've probably had people knock on your door before. There's a lot of laws that apply to that as well. There's advertising. Now, everyone's seen advertising, right? It's when you're watching the Super Bowl and then all those commercials come on, all that stuff in between is advertising. But advertisers have a lot of laws that they have to abide by as well. And you need to be aware of those laws so that you're not being tricked into getting something that you shouldn't have. One law that advertisers have is that each advertising claim must be substantiated by the seller or advertiser before the ad runs. So this means if, let's say, a toothpaste company is selling toothpaste, and in their ad, they're going to promise that toothpaste will whiten your teeth within 30 days or your money back, then they have to go out and prove before they make that claim that it's going to whiten your teeth. They can't just make a claim. That would be lying. They have to be able to prove it. And so if you ever hear a claim like that on an ad, I would go do your research and see if they prove that before doing it. There's also the bait and switch. The bait and switch involves an insincere offer to sell a product on terms that sound almost too good to be true. So if you've ever gotten a mail-in flyer, like a flyer in the mail maybe that talks about how, oh my goodness, if you get 3 in a row, then you've won a car. I've gotten them, and every time I get them, I always get 3 in a row. But guess what? I have never won a car in my life. I wish I had, but I've never won a car. That's a bait and switch. They give me this flyer that shows that I've got 3 in a row so that I'll come into their office. They'll notice that, hey, I didn't actually win a car, but maybe I'll stay around and I'll buy a car from them. They say, oh, yeah, you won something, but it doesn't look like you actually won a car. But let's see if I can get you to buy something else from me. They baited me into coming in, and then they try and switch me into buying something else. Sometimes they'll have you come in to buy something small. Maybe they'll say, hey, we've got backpacks on sale today for $1. And you get in and they don't actually have any backpacks on sale anymore. Maybe they only had one for sale for $1, but everything else costs $20. But they try to get you to buy that $20 backpack instead. They baited you in with the $1 backpack and they tried to switch you to the $20 one. There's also mail order sales that you need to be careful of. And you have a right to know when you can expect merchandise to be shipped. So if you order something through the mail and they say, hey, it's going to be here in a week, that's something that you need to know. If it doesn't come within 30 days, you can generally cancel that order. And then internet commerce, Amazon, all of that stuff. If you buy things off the internet, I would really pay attention to this section in the chapter because there's a lot of stuff that you need to be aware of. Now, finishing off the chapter, you're going to learn all about becoming a smart consumer. And part of being a smart consumer means taking practical steps before and after making a purchase to either avoid or remedy consumer problems. And that section, like I said, I'm not going to list everything, but it's going to list a whole bunch of things that you can do to become a smart consumer. Steps that you can take to make sure you're having good financial decisions, that you're making good, practical choices, that you're looking at all the fine details. But pay attention to this one because part of this class isn't just learning about laws and government and how court systems work, but school is to help you become a better citizen. And we want you to leave our school knowing all that you can to make smart and wise and educated decisions. And if you study this chapter, I really think you'll learn more about becoming that smart consumer. But that's all. Actually, real quick, let me give you a few tips that you can do to become a smart consumer. First of all, there's comparison shopping. You don't just go and buy the first thing you see. You look around and you see what other options you have out there. You can also gather information, do your research, see what kind of warranties things have, see what kind of reviews. Reviews are awesome because those are all over the place now, right? You just Google something and you can see what people think about it. You want to negotiate with sellers. You don't always have to take that first price when you go buy that car. Tell them what you think it's worth. Tell them the reviews that you've read and why you think maybe something's worth a little bit less. You also can learn how to write effective complaint letters because sometimes you'll purchase something and it's defective and that company is going to try not to honor their warranty. If you know your rights and you learn how to write an effective complaint letter, you can almost guarantee yourself that you're going to get your money back. And if all else fails, you can work with government agencies and organizations and the court systems to try and remediate situations that don't work. And those are all things that you'll learn a little bit more about in the chapter. But just know that as a consumer, if you are aware and you know these things, you'll be much better off in the long run. So hopefully you learned a little bit from this video. I encourage you now to go and take care of your video assignment so you can get some credit for this. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to me, guys. Thanks so much. Hope you're having a great week. Bye.